Thought it was just a girls' night out. But when I got home, my husband was gone, no calls, no texts, just his wedding ring on the table. Then, I checked my email, and my entire marriage unraveled. My name is Brooke, I'm 32, and this is the story of the night everything in my marriage shifted. It's been stuck in my head ever since, like a scene from a movie I can't turn off. It started with a simple invite. My friend Tasha texted me around noon that Friday. Girls' night at Velvet Lounge tonight, you in? Velvet was one of those spots that played loud music, had dim red lights, and just enough mystery to make you feel like you were living on the edge. I hadn't been out like that in months. Marriage, work, the usual routines had sucked up my social life, so I said yes, no hesitation. I knew exactly what I was going to wear too, that red dress. Not just any red dress, the red dress, tight in all the right places, short but not trashy, with these thin straps that barely did their job. It was the kind of dress that made me feel like I still had it, you know? That feeling right when you look in the mirror, and actually like what you see for once. Now, here's where things get sticky. My husband, Chase, he's 36, not the controlling type, but he's always had something to say about what I wear. Not in a, you can't wear that way, but more like those little side comments that stick with you. You sure that's not a little much? Or, you don't want to send the wrong message, right? I brushed it off like I always did. It's just a dress. So I got ready while he sat on the couch, eyes locked on his phone like usual. I didn't make a big announcement about what I was wearing. But I knew he saw me. I felt his eyes on me as I grabbed my purse. He didn't say a word, just glanced up, his face blank, and went right back to scrolling. I figured that was his way of approving it, not that I needed it. Tasha picked me up, and the night started off perfect. We danced, laughed, and had those long girl talks in the corner of the club where the music isn't as loud. For the first time in forever, I felt like me again, not Chase's wife, not that woman with a 9 to 5, just Brooke, free, alive. But I'll be honest, I noticed the stares, the kind that lingered just a little too long. I'm not naive. I knew what the dress was doing, and yeah, I leaned into it a little. A few guys tried to start conversations, offering drinks and compliments, but I kept it light, a smile here, a thanks but no thanks there. I wasn't looking for attention, but I wasn't running from it either. Around 1 a.m., I texted Chase, "Hey, hope you're not missing me too much." I waited for the little typing dots to pop up. They never did. I sent another message, "This isn't funny, Chase." Nothing. My hands were sweaty, heart racing. My mind went to all the worst places. Did something happen to him? But I knew that wasn't it. I knew Chase better than that. He didn't do impulsive. If he did something, he meant it. At 4 a.m. I gave up, stripped off that stupid red dress, and put on one of his old shirts. I laid in bed trying to convince myself it wasn't that deep. He just wanted me to feel how he felt. Maybe he was teaching me a lesson. I hated that phrase. Lessons are for kids, not grown adults. But still, I told myself he'd come home by morning. He didn't. By 10 a.m. I'd gone from anxious to angry. I called him, straight to voicemail. Left him a message. "Chase, I'm not doing this. Call me back." No answer. By noon, I was calling his brother Matt to see if he'd heard from him. Nope. I was spiraling. What's the game plan here, Chase? Was he trying to make me beg, apologize for wearing a dress, for looking good? I was sitting at the table just staring at that ring like it had all the answers, but all it did was remind me of the silence. That's when I heard the front door open. I shot up so fast I almost knocked over my coffee. My heart started pounding all over again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was something between rage and relief. Chase walked in, calm as ever, keys in one hand, phone in the other. He didn't look at me, not at first. "Where have you been?" I asked, arms crossed so tight I could feel my nails pressing into my skin. He looked at me like I was a stranger, set his keys on the counter slowly, deliberately, like he wanted me to watch every move. "Out," he said, walking past me like we hadn't just gone 12 hours without a word. "Out." My voice cracked, but I didn't care. "Out where, Chase? You leave your ring on the table, no text, no call, and you walk in here like nothing happened." He shrugged, heading toward the bedroom. "You looked like you had fun last night," he said over his shoulder, that tone like he knew something I didn't. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't just a punishment. He wanted me to feel exactly what he felt, the doubt, the second guessing, the waiting. "You're really going to play it like that?" I asked, following him to the bedroom. He turned, hands in his pockets, face calm but his eyes sharp. "I didn't do anything you didn't do." That sentence hit harder than it should have. I stood there, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. His words hung in the air like a slow echo, and for a second, I felt like I was on trial without knowing what crime I'd committed. "I didn't do anything you didn't do." I blinked at him, my face twisted in confusion. "What's that supposed to mean, Chase? You're really comparing whatever this is to me going out with my friends." I stepped forward, arms still crossed, but now it was more to hold myself together than to look tough. He tilted his head, eyes locked on me like I was missing something obvious. "No, Brooke. I'm comparing it to you walking out the house dressed like that, soaking up attention from every dude in the room, and pretending it's innocent." He leaned against the doorframe like he had all the time in the world, hands still in his pockets. "But yeah, sure, let's call it going out with your friends." That hit me right in the chest, not because he was right, but because I knew that's exactly how he saw it. Men always see it like that, like every glance, every stare is something we wanted just because we didn't swat it away. I clenched my jaw and stared at him, daring him to say it outright. "So that's it, huh?" I said, letting out a dry, bitter laugh. You're mad because I looked good, for me and not for you? That's what this is about. His eyes squinted, and I knew I'd struck a nerve. Looked good for you, huh? He took a step forward, finally pulling his hands out of his pockets. Now, Brooke, you don't wear a dress like that for you wear that for them. He pointed vaguely like, them, were standing in the room with us. My face got hot, not from embarrassment, from rage. Are you serious right now? I wore that dress because I liked how I looked in it, Chase, not because I needed some drunk guy at the bar to tell me I'm cute. I stepped up to him, eyes locked on his. You want to be mad, but don't sit here and act like I was out there doing something shady. He didn't back down. You didn't have to do anything, Brooke. You think it's about cheating? Nah, it's about respect. He tapped his chest like that word was supposed to mean something extra. You knew exactly what that dress would do, but you wore it anyway. I tilted my head, eyes narrowing. You mean like how you knew exactly what leaving your wedding ring on the table would do, but you did it anyway. Silence. That silence that's loud in all the wrong ways. He didn't respond right away, just stared at me, his jaw tightening like he was trying to hold back from saying something reckless. Good, feel that? That's different, he finally muttered, but it was weak. He knew it, I knew it. Different how, Chase? My voice cracked again, but this time I didn't care. You want to talk about respect, about intention? You left that ring there to mess with my head. You wanted me to feel it, to feel like something was wrong. I jabbed my finger at him, my breathing picking up like I'd just run a mile. So congratulations, you got what you wanted. You win, feel better now. He shook his head slowly like I was the one missing something. It's not about winning, Brooke. It's about knowing where the line is, and you crossed it. He rubbed the back of his neck, eyes darting to the floor like he didn't want to say the next part, but he said it anyway. And anyway, if I went out wearing something that showed off everything and let women stare me down all night, you'd be calling me everything but a child of God. Don't flatter yourself, I snapped back. It came out sharper than I meant, but I was too mad to care. If you think that's the same thing, you're delusional. I went out to dance with my friends, Chase, not to entertain men. I took a step back, hands on my hips now, and you know what's wild? The only person trying to make me feel guilty is you. Nobody at that club had me second-guessing myself, just you. He let out a bitter laugh, running his hands over his face like I just said something ridiculous. Of course they didn't, Brooke. They're not married to you. They don't have to watch their wife dress like she's available. He emphasized that last word so hard it felt like a punch. Available. The way he said it made me feel cheap, and that's when I knew we'd crossed into dangerous territory. This wasn't about the dress anymore. This was about something deeper. I felt my chest tighten, and for a second, I didn't even know what to say. My hands dropped to my sides. You know what, Chase? If you see me as available, that's on you, not me. I can't control what people think when I walk in a room, but I'll be damned if I start dressing like a nun just to. 8. Keep your insecurities in check. He raised his eyebrows like I just pulled a wild card on him. Insecurities? He repeated, his voice getting lower, more dangerous. That's what we're calling it now. He nodded slowly, jaw tightening so hard I thought he might crack a tooth. Cool, cool. He clapped his hands once, a sharp sound that echoed through the room. Then he turned toward the closet and started pulling out clothes. What are you doing? I asked, my heart racing all over again. Since I'm so insecure, he said, yanking a duffel bag off the top shelf, I'ma give you some space to figure out what you really want. He dropped the bag on the bed and started throwing clothes in it like he was on a timer. Shirts, sweats, socks, no folding, just tossing like he was trying to send me a message with every throw. Are you serious right now? My voice cracked, not from anger this time, but something closer to panic. I stepped forward, grabbing his arm, but he pulled away like I'd burned him. Chase, come on, this is stupid. Yeah, it is, he said without looking at me, still packing, but you made it that way. He zipped the bag, slinging it over his shoulder. Don't worry, I'll be back, just not tonight. I followed him to the front door, my whole chest tight like I just lost a fight I didn't know I was in. So you're just walking out like that's going to prove a point. He turned to face me at the door, his eyes softer now but still firm. It's not about proving a point, Brooke. It's about making sure I never feel like this again. That broke me. My breath caught in my throat, but I didn't say anything. I stood there frozen, watching him unlock the door, open it, and step outside. He didn't slam it, he didn't say anything else. He just left, quiet, clean, final. I stood there staring at the door for so long I didn't even realize my hands were shaking. I sat on the couch, eyes locked on that stupid wedding ring still sitting on the table. Why didn't he take it with him? I don't know how long I sat there. I didn't cry, didn't scream, I just sat thinking, did I cross a line? Did he? My phone buzzed on the table. I reached for it like it might be him. It wasn't, it was Tasha. Girl, you good? Last night was wild, the text read, followed by a bunch of laughing emojis. I didn't respond. I just stared at it, fell hovering over the keyboard, because honestly, I didn't know if I was good. I sat on the couch for what felt like hours, replaying everything Chase said. Respect boundaries, looking available, the words played on a loop in my mind, each one cutting deeper than the last. I hated that it got to me. I hated that I started doubting myself. Was the dress too much? Did I push him too far? No, I wasn't going to do that to myself. I wore it because I felt good in it, end of story. But something about that empty spot where his wedding ring should have been wouldn't let me rest. The sun had gone down, and the house was dead silent. Every little noise felt louder than it should have. The hum of the fridge, the tick of the clock on the wall, my own breathing. It all felt like background music to the storm brewing in my head. I kept telling myself he'll cool off and come back, he always does. But tonight felt different. I grabbed my phone and checked for messages, nothing. No missed calls, no texts. I tapped on Chase's name, my thumb hovering over the call button. Don't do it, Brooke. Don't give him that satisfaction. I tossed the phone on the couch next to me, rubbing my hands over my face. He's just being dramatic, I told myself. He'll be back once he calms down. That's what I thought until I heard the front door unlock. My heart jumped. He's back. I sat up quickly, wiping my face like I had something to hide. The door swung open slowly, and Chase walked in with that same calm, steady energy that had me on edge earlier. He wasn't carrying his bag, which I took as a good sign. Back already? I asked, trying to sound nonchalant like I wasn't relieved to see him. He didn't answer right away, just closed the door behind him, locking it with a slow, deliberate click. Then he looked at me, and something about his eyes was different, colder than when he left. Chase, I said, sitting up straighter. What's going on? He stayed quiet as he walked past me toward the kitchen. I heard the cabinet door open, then the sink running. It was so normal it felt off. He came back out holding a glass of water, drinking it slow, eyes on me like he was watching a movie. You good? I asked, my voice a little shakier this time. You're acting weird. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, nodded, and set the glass down on the table, right next to his wedding ring. The same ring I swore he'd left behind. My heart dropped. Thought you left that here, I muttered, eyeing it like it might burn me if I got too close. He chuckled, low and dry. Yeah, I did. He leaned forward, resting his hands on the back of the chair across from me. His eyes didn't leave mine. Wanted you to see it, make you think about it. Okay, well, you made your point, I said, my patience wearing thin. You can stop playing mind games now. But he shook his head slowly. Nah, I'm not done. That silence came back, heavy, suffocating. My palms started sweating, and I felt the need to fill it with something. Look, Chase, sorry if you felt disrespected. I'm saying it now, but you walking out, leaving your ring behind like you're the victim, that's wild. His eyebrows raised just a little, like he was entertained. Wild, huh? He smirked. Yeah, you're right, it's wild how things change so fast. He pushed off the chair and walked toward the hallway. You should check your email, Brooke. My stomach twisted. Why? I asked, but he didn't answer. He kept walking, calm as ever, like he had nothing but time. I reached for my phone, fingers suddenly clumsy as I unlocked it. My heart was racing so fast I could barely hear my own thoughts. I tapped on my email app, refreshing it. At first, nothing. Then it popped up. Subject: Thought you should see this from Chase Johnson. My chest got tight, hands shaky. I clicked it. The email opened, and at first it was just a big gray box with a loading symbol, a video file. I stared at it, dreading what I knew was coming, but still too curious not to look. I clicked. The video started. It was grainy, like it had been recorded on an old security camera. It took me a second to figure out what I was even looking at, a dimly lit room, neon lights flashing in the background. Then I saw her, me at the club, the red dress, the one Chase wouldn't stop talking about. My stomach dropped to my feet. It was a wide shot of the bar area. I saw myself laughing with Tasha, a drink in my hand, nothing crazy, just two women having fun. But then the camera panned slightly, and I saw it, him, some guy standing behind me, way too close, closer than I remembered. His hand hovered by my waist, like he was thinking about touching me, and I shifted slightly. I didn't notice it at the time, but on the screen, it looked like I leaned into him. Oh, come on, I muttered at the screen, my heart racing faster. That's not what happened. But the camera didn't care about the truth. It only cared about how it looked, and from this angle, it didn't look good. The video kept playing. The guy leaned in, his mouth close to my ear like he was saying something slick. I shook my head, but I was smiling. The kind of smile you do when you're trying not to be rude, the kind that could be misinterpreted. My heart pounded in my chest. I watched as I reached over to grab my drink, brushing his arm in the process. Not on purpose, it wasn't on purpose, but none of that mattered, not in the video. I hit pause. I couldn't watch anymore. My head felt light, my chest heavy. I looked up, and Chase was standing in the hallway, arms folded, watching me like he'd been waiting for this moment, waiting to see it sink in. You followed me, my voice cracked. I could barely get the words out. Followed you? He tilted his head, looking at me like I was slow. Nah, Brooke, I didn't have to follow you. He pulled his phone out of his pocket, tapping the screen. You know how easy it is to get security footage from a bar if you know the right people. Real easy. He shoved his phone back in his pocket, his eyes locked on mine. But go ahead, tell me how innocent you were. I was innocent. I stood up, my voice louder than I meant, my hands shaking. That guy came up to me. I didn't ask for that. But you didn't walk away either, did you? He took a step closer, his voice steady, cold. You stayed, smiled, laughed, let him think he had a chance. That's what I saw. Tears burned in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Chase, I didn't cheat on you. My voice was softer now, like I was pleading with him to believe me. Maybe not, he said, his voice low, almost a whisper, but you let him think you could. He walked to the front door, picked up his keys from the table, and glanced back at me one last time. You always told me perception doesn't matter, right? He smirked, shaking his head like he finally got it. Guess it does now. And just like that, he walked out. No yelling, no slamming doors, just gone. I stood there, tears blurring my vision, staring at that stupid wedding ring on the table. It was mine now, for real this time, because the man who wore it, he wasn't coming back.